Okay, just in the last 2 years, gold has made a return of 90%. The question is it the best time to invest in gold, or has gold reached a peak? My biggest question would be like, what has been influencing gold to be going that high? Should we be really investing in gold in the first place? And my biggest question would be like, is it time or is it time to sell? In this video, we're going to be breaking down the reason why gold has been going high. And well, if you all remember, we had what they call the geopolitical tension after we had COVID in 2019, 2020. We had what was known as the geopolitical tension between Russia and Ukraine. Well, that's when we first saw the rise of gold. However, my didn't raise that put us on the highest tension to be like really be high in having that kind of tensions. Yes, gold rose, but it didn't rise as it is today. The biggest factor of all those kind of factors will be saying that gold was influenced by the freezing of the Russian assets by the US. When the US froze the Russian assets in the US, this influenced all central banks all over the world, particularly China, to be piling up gold and getting off the US holding, because this made them like to understand that, okay, if you're not a friend of the US, yeah, anytime what you call your own assets could be turned into someone else's assets. Not only China, but it influenced countries like Brazil, countries like I would call South Africa, many countries that have been buying up gold until this moment. On the geopolitical tension that we had that influenced the gold to be going that high, we also have the Israel-Gaza war. This war also implicated the prices of gold to be surging high and high. So when this war broke out, we saw gold prices getting high and high and high. Whereas it was not the only thing that was getting high. Israel-Iranian war. So this also played a big role in simple terms. This also played a factor where we would say like gold prices surged more and more. But also we have another factor that also influenced one of the main factors that has caused investors to be running for gold, and in the first place will be the rising inflation. Inflation has been rising for over way that high. Like we had the highest stimulus just in 2020, the COVID pandemic. It's predicted that almost 10 trillions were stimulated in the US economy alone just during COVID, and that's why you had to see some hikes after 2022 when the Fed tried to hike up the US dollar so that they could fight inflation. This scared almost investors to be looking at gold as a safe haven, other than looking at the US Treasury bonds or the T-bills. The way how the US debt has been going higher and higher, and implicating the uncertainties between investors. In a simple term, we should try to understand our best that why gold prices are getting high and high in the first place. So it should be the US debt, a $37 trillion dollar debt. That's highly to be a road of no return. Many economists or analysts believe that it's a road of no return. That's a debt that the US will never pay. That's in simple terms, in small language, someone try to understand. It's something that's scaring the investors to understand. Like the US government is sort of like, in the first place, Trump tried to bring in, I would say, Elon Musk with Doge to make a smaller government, or to create a small government to be decreasing the spending of the government. But here's the funny part: their relationship didn't take that long, and boom. After their relationship had broken down, we saw the big and beautiful bill coming up, and that's another high expenditure to the US government. This has created a lot of uncertainties and leaving most investors to be running for things like metals, gold, and the fear of another factor will be like the uncertainty between the tariffs of the Trump policies of the tariffs that are almost surging, that are likely to rise again on August 1st, because in the first place we're going to be looking at the tariffs that are heading high and high in the first place. We're going to be looking at what we would be calling in simple terms, what's known as sad relationship between China and the US. Well, I'm going to call it the Cold War between the China and the US. The uncertainty between the tariffs that are rising between the China and the US is leaving investors not only in ideal state, but other than running to gold as a safe haven in the first place. Because what we have seen China doing in the first place or in the last 2 years, it has been selling off its US state, buying of gold. Has China alone. China alone buying gold left the man. China alone buying gold imposed a lot of foreign countries, or I would say partners in countries like the BRICS. That's my next point. To be losing interest buying the US debt or the US Treasury bills to buying things like gold. In the first place, we should understand that today how gold is very highly on demand is unpredictable. The volatility that gold alone is creating in the markets is way high, other than the US Treasuries. So to understand how this implicatable is, if you look at the geopolitical tension, you look at the uncertainty policies and the policies that Trump is trying to implement, that always changing day by day, because today we saw the tension that he created between China and the US when the tariffs went high, almost 120%, 245%, which were all absurd and almost kept shipping closed for almost a week without anything getting shipped, hence slowing down the economy. If you look at the GDP, how the US GDP has been falling down, or their growth expectations promotes from 2.2% to 1.6%. This may not work as an actual factor for investors to be buying gold, but you look at the tensions that are taking place within nations. So this leaves investors to be in a phase of being in unstable behavior of thinking, where should I keep my money, or where should I be investing? Hence, running for gold. My last point will be the influence of the BRICS. So on the side of BRICS, well, those are countries involving Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And that's how we started, I think, around the 2010, 2009, somewhere like that. The goal of these countries was to promote trade. And the way they wanted to promote trade was like to make trade much easier. However, they wanted to create an option of the US dollar. As of now, that's their policy. Because as of today, there are over 52 countries that are almost fighting to join the BRICS, that are applying it to be part of the trend or the group. Their influence coming in has made, if just looking at the leaders of the BRICS piling up gold, has influenced other countries to be buying gold instead of buying treasury bills, hence making the gold prices to be surging high and high. In simple terms, we must understand why gold prices have been heading high. The BRICS influence is that high that it has made leaders like Trump to be threatening countries in BRICS to be almost be having what would be calling a Trump tariff of 10%. That, like, if you're gonna be trading with other countries of the US dollar, you will be having a 10% tariff. And this is one of the funny factors, because the tariff may not really work on a weak dollar. The way the dollar is today is almost 97%. It had what they call an incline to almost falling down to 97. And this week's likely to be heading down and down. The probabilities of the US dollar getting that high are kind of way less in actual sense. Because if you look at the war between Trump and Powell, that the chairman of the Fed, or the chairman of the central bank of the US Fed, you're going to try to understand that these guys are not in a good relationship or to interact with, hence creating uncertainties about the US economy, well as impacting the state of the US Treasury bonds, keeping all investors off buying these bonds, apart from going to buying things like metals like gold, crypto, silver, and the rest. Well, unless anything changes, but for now, all you can see, gold prices are still going high and surging high. See you in the next. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.